My name is Callie Parker, and the title of my paper is Effects of Home Literacy Activities on School Literacy. The purpose of this paper was to examine research concerning home literacy activities and seek to understand how these literacy activities affect the success of children once they enter formal schooling. And I especially looked at how home literacy activities can help children with their emergent literacy skills. So by reading the research, the conclusion that I eventually came to is that home literacy activities have a positive effect on how children perform in literacy at school. One big idea that I came across often was the idea of motivation. And basically, the idea here is that it's incredibly important for children to have the correct motivation once they get to school, but that motivation actually starts in the home. Cummings, McLaughlin, and Finch, 2018, state that motivation has an effect on amount of reading, persistence, level of engagement, and reading achievement. So obviously motivation is important. And for that motivation to start in the home and then translate into formal schooling is obviously going to help the child succeed. And one way for a child to gain correct motivation is to have good support from home. And one way that a child gets support from home is taking time with their parent or parents and having these home literacy activities. Madraj and Madraj in 2011 state that there's a direct positive relationship between parent involvement and students' academic achievement. And I think this couldn't be presented any more clearly. Basically, what Madraj and Madraj are saying is that any parental involvement is very helpful to students' academic achievement. But I think that especially we can apply this to home literacy activities, because when parents take the time to look ahead to the skills that their children are going to need once they enter formal schooling, that's the best part of parent involvement, because they're trying to ensure that when their child gets to formal schooling, they're ready. And then the child also knows that their parents have looked ahead and have planned for them so that they can succeed to the very best of their ability. Newman and Newman in 2009 say that the home environment provides children with their first literacy experiences. Parents are thus well placed to facilitate the development of emergent literacy skills in their children before formal reading and writing begins at school. I think that we often think of education as being a classroom with a teacher, but what Newman and Newman talk about here is that schooling really can begin in the home environment. And so if children start with a positive home environment, and if they learn that education is positive and that education is good and learning is wonderful, then when they enter formal schooling, they're carrying these ideas with them. And so when parents take the time to share with their children how important learning is, and when they, read to their child with some shared reading, or they're having some creative games and other learning activities with their child, the child is learning the importance of education. And this is a positive home learning environment. And this is going to translate well for the child's literacy skills once they hit formal schooling. Jurgen and Birkenau in 2005 say that the global measure of overall responsiveness and support of the home environment was the strongest predictor of children's language and early literacy skills and contributed over and above the specific literacy practice measures in predicting children's early language and literacy development. And this was a lot, but basically what Jurgen and Birkenau are talking about is that responsiveness at home and support at home are the strongest predictors of children's language and early literacy skills. So when we're looking at emergent literacy skills in children, we need to first look at how responsive the home is and how supportive the home is. And so of course, if you have a home environment where children are participating with their parent or their parents in literacy activities, that is a very responsive home environment, and that is a supportive home environment. So once again, just by looking through this research and trying to get some big ideas from it, the conclusion that I did come to is that home literacy activities have a positive effect on how children perform in literacy at school. And once again, this is how motivated the child is to perform well, how emotionally they look back at their time at home before formal schooling, and they can look back on that learning environment as a positive one, then they can translate those feelings into their formal schooling. So if parents are willing to set aside some time, whether it be structured or whether it be more creative and free, and teach their child the importance of learning, then they can really start to facilitate a love for learning in their child. And a love for learning is what's really going to help a child succeed in their formal schooling.